deep dive. We try to cut through the noise here, and today we're looking at a really interesting mix of sources. We've got a key verse from 2 Corinthians chapter 10, and also an excerpt from the Daily Heavenly Manna devotional from July 5th.
Right. Two seemingly different texts, but they touch on some deep themes.
Exactly. Our goal is to kind of unpack what they say about, well, spiritual warfare, as it's often called, and also these very specific conditions for acceptance mentioned.
Yeah, important ideas.
Okay, so let's dig in. That 2 Corinthians passage, verses 4 and 5, it mentions weapons of our warfare. But then it says they are not carnal, but mighty through God.
Right.
To the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and so on, ending with bringing every thought to the obedience of Christ. Now, when I first hear warfare, I think external conflict. But this seems different. How does this reframe things?
It totally reframes it. The key is right there, not carnal. So definitely not physical weapons, no swords, no literal battles in that sense.
Yep.
The battlefield, according to this, is entirely internal. It's the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, these weapons, which are mighty through God, they're aimed squarely at strongholds, imaginations, these high things, basically our thoughts. The goal isn't defeating an external enemy, but achieving this profound internal discipline, bringing your own thoughts into alignment, into captivity to the obedience of Christ.
So the real fight is inside. Okay. When it says pulling down strongholds or casting down imaginations, what are those, practically speaking? Are they specific bad thoughts or something bigger?
Good question. I think strongholds here aren't, stone fortresses. They're more like deeply embedded patterns of thinking. Maybe persistent anxieties or beliefs that limit us or just mental ruts we get stuck in. They feel solid, like a stronghold.
Right. Makes sense.
And imaginations, maybe not just idle daydreams, but the narratives we build, assumptions we make that might not line up with truth and those high things. Any idea, any belief, really, that sets itself up against that deeper truth or alignment.
So it's about actively dismantling those internal structures.
Wow. Exactly. Repatterning how we think and perceive. It's quite active. Yeah.
It really is. It feels less passive than just trying to think positively. It's more like cognitive reconstruction.
Well put.
And then interestingly, the sources seem to pivot. From this internal work, we move to how it affects our standing, our acceptance. The Daily Heavenly Manna text brings up these two conditions for acceptance with God. The first one is loyal obedience to His word. That seems kind of expected, maybe.
Yeah.
The proof of love and faith.
Yes, it frames obedience as the tangible evidence. You demonstrate your faith and love through that loyalty to the word.
But then there's the second one. And this one is pretty striking.
It is. It really shifts the focus to relationships, specifically love for the brethren.
Right. But it defines that love in really stark terms. It says it requires a readiness to be, to do, and to suffer, to die on behalf of those who are really, truly consecrated children of God.
That's the core of it.
Readiness to suffer, to die. That's intense. That sounds like an incredibly high bar for acceptance, doesn't it? Especially for the brethren.
It is incredibly demanding. It speaks volumes about the required depth of commitment, I think. It's saying acceptance isn't just about your internal state or your personal beliefs, however disciplined. It's also fundamentally tied to your commitment to the community.
To those specific people described as consecrated children of God.
Exactly, putting them before yourself, even to the point of, yes, the ultimate sacrifice. It's a love shown through action, through tangible willingness to sacrifice, not just a feeling.
So let's try and wrap this up. If we boil down our deep dive today,
Right.
we've got these spiritual weapons that are actually mental and spiritual tools.
Right, for internal work.
Aimed at our thoughts, our imaginations, pulling down those internal strongholds, reshaping the inner world. And then these two conditions for acceptance. First, that loyal obedience showing faith and love.
The evidence.
And second, this incredibly profound sacrificial love for fellow believers, a readiness to suffer, even die for them.
Yeah, if you connect the dots, these aren't just old ideas from scriptures. They arguably form a kind of blueprint.
A blueprint for
Internal resilience, you could say, clarity of thought, but also for a very demanding, very deep kind of relational commitment. It's a framework for handling challenges, both the ones inside you and the ones involving others.
It really gives you a different lens.
Definitely.
So the question for you listening is, what does this all mean for you?
Mm.
How might understanding these ideas, these non-carnal weapons working on the mind, and these intense conditions of obedience and sacrificial love, how might that shift how you look at challenges?
Mm.
Not just the big stuff out in the world, but maybe the battles within your own mind and how you connect or commit to others around you.
Mm. Something to really think about.
Definitely something to ponder as you continue your own deep dive.